I don't really care for the Odyssey. And yes, I feel exactly like this meme right now. And I gave it a 3-star review on Letterboxd, and that usually means pretty good. I still walked out of the theater satisfied. I walked out of my, $30 IMAX ticket with my popcorn, and I felt satisfied. I said, good. But then I look at the reviews, I look at some of my friends, and it seems 3 stars is on the much lower end. So what's happening? Now, for a lot of people, Christopher Nolan's newest movie works for them really, really well. And I'm not a Chris Nolan hater. I love the Batman movies. I love Inception. The Dunkirk is cool. Oppenheimer, I think, is the best film of the decade. I defend Oppenheimer against its very small group of haters. But when it comes to the Odyssey, I'm in that small group of not haters, but I definitely walked out with more criticism than I thought. And then it made me think, could Christopher Nolan be getting stale? Now, once again, not stale for the Nolan heads. Shout out to the Nolan bros. But I do want to touch on something. The Odyssey starts, with this apparent magic quote. And right then and there, I knew, oh, we are Dark Knighting the Odyssey. And I think that brings into play of Christopher Nolan creating his own subgenre now. When a director gets really big and he starts selling the movie just by his name, I feel directors almost create their own subgenre. We saw this with M. Night Shyamalan, where you go into one of his movies, you're expecting a twist, in whether that's in a horror vein or not, you're always expecting a Shyamalan twist, even if he doesn't bring it. Quentin Tarantino is another great example where his style, humor, and writing has kind of become its own subgenre, and when people try to copy it, it's very noticeable. And I think we're starting to get that with Christopher Nolan. Now, why did the Odyssey bug me, though? Spoilers for the Odyssey while we talk about the legacy of Christopher Nolan here today. This is going to be a bit of a yap session for a couple minutes. I think the Odyssey is one of the greatest works in all of fiction. And I think when it ended, it was too similar to Oppenheimer, a movie that only came out 3 years ago. Odysseus was seen as this man who slowly realized that he made a terrible mistake using this Trojan horse in war. Very similar to the guilt that Oppenheimer had in the movie Oppenheimer, inventing the nuclear bomb. It was just so eerily similar. Even the shots felt similar, and then the hard cut, and then directed by Christopher Nolan. And in that moment, I just felt empty. It didn't hit right for me like the ending of Oppenheimer did. And I think it's because these movies are only 3 years apart, because Quentin Tarantino did a similar ending to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that he did for Inglourious Basterds, where it was kind of rewriting history. And I think that didn't bother me, and it didn't bother a couple people because it was a big gap. Whereas this, only 3 years. Oppenheimer is still fresh in all of our minds. And don't get me wrong, this movie's epic. I love the Cyclops sequence. I love anything that's on the ship. I'm a sucker for real water and real sea stuff. Like, that stuff's great. I'm a big Pirates of the Caribbean fan. So all of that was really cool to see on the big screen. It is worth seeing in IMAX. The work and effort that crew and cast put in, the movie definitely deserves its flowers. But there's just a part of me that does ask the question, how long could Christopher Nolan make movies like this when it comes to the writing? But 3 years from now, whatever his next movie is, if it's kind of got the similar theme of this genius man with a lot of power and a lot of aura, realizing what the world has become, I think people will eventually get sick of this. He's kind of been riding this wave for a while with his movies when you start to look back on it. You look at it in Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio's character Cobb. He kind of has a moral responsibility where he wants to get back to his family like Odysseus, but then has these abilities to do things, and then he maybe realizes what he did wrong. The ending on that one's a little more murky. And of course, Batman, the symbol of Batman being the Dark Knight because he wasn't what Gotham needed, and he realized that maybe he made some mistakes on the way, much like Odysseus. And I don't think it's bad. I do agree with the fact, write what you know. But I think Christopher Nolan is such a talented director. I think he's got more stuff to show us. I think he's got more skills. I love The Prestige, a rivalry movie. Christopher Nolan nailed that. Or something like Following, where that is extremely grounded, but it takes you on completely different turns. I think that's a very underrated movie in Christopher Nolan's catalog. I think if maybe he went back to the drawing board and did more movies like those, I wouldn't feel as bad, but I just feel like we've been on this Dark Knight train for almost 20 years now. And I think it's time to pivot, whatever that next project is. And I know that's a lot for just some guy on the internet to say, but I'm just giving an opinion. I'm saying this as a Nolan bro. I love Christopher Nolan. I watched The Dark Knight at like 10 years old in the movie theater, and it changed me. It made me realize how much I love movies and how good movies can be, especially big blockbusters. I am so happy of the existence of Christopher Nolan, and I just want to see more from him. If he's going to dip into horror, I think that's great as well. We saw what he could do with the Cyclops and everything. This a little yap session. I just really wanted to know if anybody else agrees with this. Like I said, Odyssey, good movie, 3 stars. If you want a more extended talk of me reviewing the Odyssey, let me know in the comments. But I wanted to just give this thought out today. And do you think Christopher Nolan has created his own subgenre? And do you think it could eventually get stale if he doesn't pivot? Let me know down below. This has been another edition of Ace August, a little yap session here today, just something that was on the mind. Yeah, sounds good. Hope you all have a good rest of your Monday. Check out Monday Night Caught tonight on the Shock Wrestling YouTube channel. Link will be in the description, as always. And I'll see you all tomorrow.